All right, fam, welcome to World Cartel, episode 5, season 2. It's fucking freezing here in Sydney, so I'm all rugged up like a hobo, but I don't care. We got Ian Bone on the call, who's going to be our guest today. He's obviously in sunny North Queensland, so far North Queensland, so he's got the sun shining on him. But quick intro for those of you who might be tuning in for the first time. The World Cartel podcast, we are focused on talking about turning our hindsight into your foresight, so people don't have to make the same mistakes that ourselves and our guests do, and you can try and get ahead a little bit quicker. Myself, I'm Kingy, financial advisor, run a business called Three Kings, where we try and focus on living your best life today while still planning for tomorrow. And then we've got my partner here, Akko.
I run a conglomerative group of businesses, franchises called Penal Picasso. I'm part of a business group called Blank Canvas Investment Group.
That's the one. And today's guest, no more beating around the bush, is Ian Bone, who runs Courage Training Centre in Townsville. Gun martial artist, coach, fighter or ex-fighter. I don't know, depends how much he gets on the piss these days. All-around good bloke. And to be fair, from my own experience, actual funny story. Ian's wife transitioned me out of the army, Linda. That's sort of where we first crossed paths. And Ian's a bit of an authoritative figure, as much as he won't say it, but in Townsville, across the military community and the martial arts community, very, very highly respected. And realistically, you could go around all the towns and you never find a person to say a bad word about the bloke. So
yeah, there's only 3 people there.
There'll be a few. there'll be a few.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Don't worry about that.
But mate, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for jumping on. I've been a long time fan, and recently we've been chatting a bit more. So big fan to get you on, mate. Give us a bit of an intro to yourself and tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's really nice that to jump on here again. It's good to have veterans talking about positive stuff. The veteran community is full of a bunch of negative Nancy's, so it's cool to see you guys killing it and having a good time. But not only that, helping people. So I got out of the army in 2007 after serving with the 2nd Battalion for about 8 years, and that was tough in itself with a bunch of highs and lows. And I actually think one of the reasons I started enjoying the things that I was doing and just kept doubling down on that at the end of every year was because I didn't want to be told what to do anymore. I didn't want somebody else designing my life for me, making me sleep in the dirt all the time. So, I had a bit of a chip on my shoulder, so to speak, So, I got out, and to be honest, when I got out, I had no job. I was unemployed for a good period of time, living off a little bit of money that I had saved from deployments, but not much, like maybe I had like 10 grand in the bank. Wasn't a huge amount of money, not to be living off when you got a young family, like I had a young daughter at home. She was about 6 months old by the time I got out. One of the reasons I wanted to leave the military was because my partner was pregnant. So, we were kind of like getting real close to being on Struggle Street. And the first job I got was actually just with another veteran selling supplements part-time. And from there, I'd done my Cert 3 and Cert 4 in fitness, not because I wanted to work so much in the fitness industry, but because I'd already trained people for the last few years as a section commander. I figured it was a skill set that I had. So
were you after CFL? Did you do the CFL part, or were you just a second?
No, I was just a section commander. I always enjoyed little extracurricular bits of fitness training, so I just felt like it fitted into my skill set. Like I could run a fitness class if I needed to. I could, I had a certain amount of leadership skills, even though, now looking back on it, I feel like my leadership skills have improved. I think when you're in the army, you're kind of like, do this because I told you to, or you end up in jail. But you really need to, true leadership is people following you because they want to, not because they have to, Yeah. So that's a big learning curve as well. So I was working part-time for a good 6 months, and then I had 2 jobs. So I would work for the gym, and then I would do my own PT in the morning, and all of those spots, like I didn't have too much money. And I think maybe I had like applications for police force, paramedics, the prison. And by the time I got accepted to the paramedics and the prison was at the same time, same week, believe it or not. And I looked at how much they get paid as a student paramedic and in the prison. I was like, shit, man, I'm making the same money I was as a corporal, working 20 hours a week, doing personal training, and I'm my own boss. I'm just going to keep doing this. This is too much fun. And it makes it easy for me to fight. You know, I didn't have to work around shifts, and I could fight.
How many years pre-discharge were you fighting already?
I started fighting only like just before I got out. I think maybe like 6 months before I got out, I'd started accepting a few bouts. And it was mainly because I went away for a jiu-jitsu competition, and I was, you know, didn't have a huge amount of money. It cost me about $1,000 for the weekend to fly down to Sydney to do a jiu-jitsu competition because they didn't exist in North Queensland at that point in time. And someone said to me on the fly, oh, you know what? They would just pay you to fight mixed martial arts if you want. And I was like, really? Someone paid for my flights? You know? So, and that was kind of how I started getting addicted to fighting. It was like a weekend away with the boys, and it was paid for by someone else.
Back in the day when you loved scrapping so much that you were just like, just pay for my flights and I'll go get punched in the face. Let's go.
Yeah, it was something like that, you know, like it was also a way for me to keep my identity a little bit too, you know, like, I mean, there was parts that I enjoyed about being in the army and being an infantry soldier. And one of them was really the identity that I'd given myself as a warrior and whatnot. And I was like, you know what? We still don't know how to fight, you know, so I'm going to go do this thing on my way out and learn how to do it properly. And I remember, the first class, you know, like I was getting manhandled by people smaller than me, unfit, you know, like girls, women, everyone was handing it to me. And I was like, oh man, I thought I could fight. And blokes generally do one or two things then that like they never go back and they don't tell their friends about it, or you're like, oh, I better learn this. Yeah. You know?
It's a lot
I've been
different.
overestimating my ability to use. Yeah.
A lot different about the rum in your belly.
I don't know. I went down to a kickboxing class. Like I'd had a couple of blues in paths and never really come off second best. And then I went down to a kickboxing class, would have been 16 or 17 at Fight Right at Blacktown. And my mate was a pretty good kickboxer, and he was like, "Yeah, come down just for a fitness class." And we were hitting pads and they were kicking, and I was like, "Fuck that! I'm not going back there. These dudes are weapons." But they were all beginners. Like even now, I hold pads for old mate over here. He kicks me straight through the pads in the head. But I think it was a very egotistical thing. I think that's the key to fighting. You're either gonna sit within your ego and not. I don't know about fighting. Maybe life. Either sit within your ego and don't let anyone know that you're a little bit worried about it, or you sort of push past it. Back then, I was definitely freaking out. I was like, "There's no way I'm letting anyone see me fight if that's how everyone fights." And then now I'm sort of like, fucking let's go.
Yeah, well, it does challenge your ego, and that's one of the best things about it. And it's one of the reasons why I think it's such a good activity for kids. You know, drop them and leave them too. Don't sit on the side of the mat because your kids will run crying to you. You know, like you gotta teach people how to face those things by themselves. So it's one of the best things that I got from fighting and martial arts was processes that attacked my ego as well. You know, so I mean that was important. So eventually, those part-time jobs that I had all kind of like, you know, they came to an end. And every time a part-time job or something came to an end, I thought it was the end of the world. And, you know, it's like, oh man, I can't believe this guy's let me go. You know, like it's a third of my income. I don't trust him anymore. Now my business is in here. Now I'm going to have to move my business out of here because I'm renting from a guy that I don't trust. And it was just the worst thing, a safe place for my business, you know, and I was only been there for like 12 to 18 months. And I was like, I've built this thing into like a good wage, and now I'm going to have to move it again. I thought it was the worst thing ever. But then I started personal training out of a small studio with a guy that was holding pads for me, and I was doing the majority of my striking training with. And within 6 months, he wanted me to help him set up his gym. He wanted to run a gym, and he's like, you can run all the fitness classes there. And I negotiated a pretty good deal. So that actually turned into a much better thing than what I previously had. But, that's only in hindsight. At the time, it was rubbish. It was the worst thing ever.
Was that at the back of Dog Factory?
No, it was. He's still got the gym now. They don't run fight classes anymore. After I moved on from him, they tried and they didn't take. It's actually called Bodytalk Health and Fitness. So they're still going.
Yeah, on the main road there, up the front of where they used to be on the same road as Muscle and Fitness. Yeah.
So I ran fight classes and fitness classes out of there for him for about 6 years, and then the same thing happened again. He was like, "Oh, I'm moving to another place. There isn't room for your cage," and we'd kind of grown apart at that stage. Like there was cultural things that I felt like if I changed these cultural things, these martial arts classes are going to go off. Like they'll explode. Like I can do more of that. So at the time I was like, oh, this is pretty shitty, but it's time for me to move on, and start my own thing. But again, like I was paying myself $300 a week for like 12 months, trying to build back up my fitness clients and whatnot to get enough revenue to rent my own place. So they were really kind of tough times where like I almost had applications for jobs in to go work security in Nauru with all the rest of the veterans that were jumping in to get good money for that.
Yeah. I think that just a quick bit of context from the outside there. So I remember this time, Ian, because at this time, like I knew who you were, everyone knew who you were, and I remember when you were training out of Bodytalk and that kind of stuff. But this is the crazy part for people watching is never during that time. So I had heaps of mates from the army that were training with you, people that would follow you and do that kind of thing. And not once did that ever reflect in your business manner. So I think that's a really important lesson, people. You kept running it the way that you still got really good reviews. But no one in the world would have had a clue that was sort of going on unless you would have told them. Do you know what I mean? Because you still kept running that way, and that's why I said at the start you're an authority figure. I was in Townsville from 2010, and to now, if any of my circle, my army mates, anything mentioned martial arts, when I first got there, it was Bodytalk, right? And obviously you were there. You were at Bodytalk for a bit. Now it's courage, like that. Like there's no from pretty much when I was up there till now, you are the dominant martial arts person in Townsville, which I think is a really big testament to yourself. And given that you've had so many ups and downs, conducting yourself in the way you did, I think it's a really good lesson for people to understand that if you can stick to your values and do what you do best and stick to it, that long term there's something there for it. Yeah,
and it was chasing things that I enjoyed doing, right? So even when I was fighting, after every loss, you have that like huge ego thing where you're like, oh man, am I going to keep doing this? I just got my ass kicked. Am I really going to keep doing this? And
but you like, always put it a war, bro. No one cared if you lost because it was always a scrap.
And then you'd eventually go, okay, well, do I enjoy training? Yes. Do I enjoy training? Why do I fight? Because I want to see if the training works. All right, I'll do it again. And I think the same thing happens like for everybody that, you might have a bunch of small business owners that work with you or other people that are just getting through. Anytime you're going through something like that, those are really important questions that you need to ask yourself. Why am I doing it? Do I enjoy it? Well, let's keep doing it. It's the same with fitness training. People are like, why am I doing this fitness training if I don't enjoy it? Well, you probably shouldn't do it if you don't enjoy it, and it's not getting the results that you want. Try a different type of fitness training or a sport. You'll never get to your goals if you're not enjoying the thing that you're doing. Why are you not enjoying it? Or alternatively, people come in and do fitness classes. We don't run too many of them anymore. and they're loving it. I like the training. I like everything else, but they hate not getting the results they want from other areas of their life. So then they quit the training. They go straight back to where they were, 10, 20 kilos back on. It's like, just enjoy the training for a bit. You can't diet all year round. It sucks. It's mentally draining. You've only got so much willpower,
Yeah, 100%. I think the Acco's actually good. So Acco's been training back on the train. He sort of been a bit of a business mogul for a few years, and you know what it's like. It's really hard to try to, when you're starting out in business, to balance that personal progress versus the business stuff. And Acco went from training, being a footy player, and then how long, Acco? A couple of months, 3 months or so?
Yeah, we've been back in the gym 14 weeks now, but I think I was probably off the gym for about 5 years. And to be fair, I keep blaming the business, but really it was my missus. I met my missus, boom, fat, straight away, fucking wrecked me. But no, so what I think with me, it was always an excuse as to why not to train. It was more so I always enjoyed footy, and then I done my ACL and I couldn't play that anymore. And then I enjoyed my cricket, and I enjoyed the gym when I was at the gym, and then I hated the thought of the gym for a long time. It was like the thought process. The thought of the gym was what wrecked me. But I think now, back in the gym about 14 weeks. But on top of that, it's the things that are coming with it, like the mental gain that I get out of that, and the clarity, just being able to think properly and really reassure myself. Like throughout the moment, obviously COVID's affected us pretty hard. We've got 8 franchises in New South Wales, 6 of them in Sydney. 6 of those are closed fully at the moment, with rent still coming out. It's like 25 grand this month. And I think 12 months ago, I really would have been under some pressure within my own mind at the moment. I can't nail it all to the gym. Like, I've got a good support network at home. My missus is pretty good when it comes to sort of keeping me leveled. But when it comes to the training side of things, I think if I could name one thing that's changed, it's that. And my thought process has just followed without meaning to.
The big thing, what I was getting at there, the big thing, Ian, is that when Acco started training, is he was back in his own mind, let's diet, let's do this. And I said, bro, just relax. Let's just enjoy it. Let's just find something you enjoy, because the number one important thing is that you turn up every day, and then you can build on that, And to be fair, I think that's the number one thing that's kept him going for this long, and he's really starting to enjoy it, is he's actually looks forward to it now. I think that's a really good thing you pointed out.
Well, that's something that you and our common friend Jackson do well, and I think it's something that I do really well, and I still credit kind of like the chip on my shoulder in the military for it. Is you have to enjoy your life and lifestyle now. The things that you want to do, you can't wait to do them later. That doesn't mean spending all your cash and doing all this. It's actually a lifestyle, your daily habits. What's this thing that you enjoy doing every day? Is it lifting weights and shooting shit with your mates at the gym? Is it, have you always wanted to do martial arts? Don't wait till you're fit. Do it now. You got to live that life now. Do you love traveling? Well, start saving the money and start traveling now. Stop saving for that big trip, because it might never happen, And once you start enjoying the now, it makes it easy when times are tough. You're like, I'm only making $300 a week, but I'm training martial arts every day. Screw it. We'll get where we want to, as long as we keep trying and asking for help, and we'll do it, And we just, with that attitude, I just settled on buying the building where we're at today. So not only do we, did we move to a bigger space, but we've bought the building, and we've been paying that off.
Buy it? It wasn't just renting. You bought it.
No, we've bought it. So we just I don't want landlords. I don't want people in control of my day. I don't want to have to move the gym again. Like, you imagine, like, every time you move the gym, you got to set it up.
That's massive. Congratulations. I didn't realize that's what you did. That's awesome. That's a really big step. Well done.
That's what we're looking at doing now too. I think we had this idea of purchasing the businesses, and then essentially we want the real estate as well. We feel like if we've got to sell the asset. Ours is a little bit different to yours. Yours is very lifestyle based, and probably need you to continue to run it, based off of the fact that it's built on you. And the way we sort of build our brands were, a lot of people don't know we own the business. A lot of my staff don't even know who I am. So I've got managers implemented. The management looks after the staff. I looked after the management, and that was the way we wanted it, because we ideally wanted to look at this business as a business as opposed to a venture. I've been in a part of so many things where, although I love it and I'm captivated by everything that I do daily, I don't feel like previously. I feel like it was a big ego thing in my mind where I needed everyone to know that I run this business and this business is built on the back of me. And I got to this position where I was like, you know what? Although people know I own the brand and stuff, I don't really need to be seen in that light. And now the goal for us as well is to be able to turn those rental properties that we put our studios in. We want to essentially purchase those, at least half of them, and then once the business is a sellable asset, we can essentially still rent out our business to the business, our tenancy to the business that we sold it to. So essentially, you're just offsetting that risk. And I think people sometimes, I mean, real estate's a funny thing, but I think people sometimes don't value it as highly. Ryan's always said to me, look, real estate's only valuable if you want it to be valuable, if it means something to you. And that really resonates with me because I always was brought up, you got to buy a house, you got to buy a house, you got to do this, you got to do that. Whereas now with me, it's like, if it makes sense, I'll buy it. If it doesn't make sense, I don't. And that's something I've learned probably in the last 12 months to 18 months through. The podcast has helped us a lot in learning that sort of stuff as well, because you see so many different people that have just raised like, this is what you've got to do. You have to do this and you have to do this because it's what you were told. And realistically, you don't have to do shit unless you want to do it, unless it makes sense. Right?
Yeah. Well, even when COVID happened, a lot of martial arts schools went online. I was like, I don't want to run Zoom classes. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
But I will build a back end of online stuff to kind of like hopefully help my members stay active and look at all that stuff. And we jumped about 200 free lessons on YouTube. So I knew that would be a good resource for my clients after COVID. So I think whenever you do anything, buying real estate or anything, it's got to be like something that's going to pay back to you in some reason. And it wasn't, we haven't bought the building for money purposes because we want to stack more cash. I built it so I don't have to deal with the landlords, because I had some dealings with landlords and I was like, yuck, I don't like this. How do I remove this relationship from my life?
I can't just choke this one out. I can't just do that.
Yeah, it's the worst thing ever, eh? Your hands are tied too, because we're in a position now too where we're being held ransom. Obviously, we say we close for 4 weeks, you pay $3,500 a week times the 8. There's a big outgoing going out, and the fact of the matter is as well is it takes you 3 months to get a leak fixed in the roof, and 3 seconds for him to hit you for rent when you got no money. It's just one of those things where I feel strongly the same as well. I would love, like, I'd love to open like a pub or a bar or something like that. But if I did that, I'd have to own the land, so they left me the fuck alone. But I couldn't deal with the landlords. They're a nightmare.
Yeah,
council's bad enough.
It's tough, right? And every time you get mad or upset or frustrated about something, that's a good flag that you should really find a way to take control of that. And yelling doesn't help. So we saved a stacker. That was what we had really helped our finances. The last fight I had with my landlord at the place that we moved out of, I was like, man, that's it. I need to level up.
Yeah.
So, and that's what we did. We saved money. We leveled up. We plugged some holes in the business. We invested in, like more coaching and more help from people that were better with numbers than I am, because I'm not good. I'm not good with that stuff. I got help for it.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. That's a really, really good lesson. Now, I've got 3 sort of questions I want you to cover off on this front. There's a clear shift, and I like this because this is something a lot of people go through their whole life and don't realize. We talk a lot on the podcast about being conscious, conscious with all your decisions, whether it's financial, whether it's lifestyle. Don't do shit, unwillingly, and then look back and be a victim about it. You make a choice on everything you do, and you obviously had a shift in your mindset of going from that every time a job sort of closed down, and you had that mindset. I want to know, when was the big switch? Like, when was the big shift in your mindset, and why did it happen, and how did you implement that shift? And from going from that to sort of your headspace now.
Oh man, I wouldn't say that there's one thing. but there's, like, I mean, it's a lot of things. So, but man, the first big shift was my girlfriend being pregnant, me going, oh, hell, I'm going to be a dad, So that shifted my mindset a lot. People that probably knew me pre-kids to post-kids, completely different kind of guy, So, that was important to me. Probably the number two thing that probably helped is when I reached out for help for particular things and started using not only paid mentors, but unpaid mentors. I'm like, hey, this guy's kind of like got like a million martial arts belts and has been in martial arts for 30 years. And here I am, self-coached. This is bullshit. I love being coached, but the coaches in Townsville are a bad fit for me because they're just, like they exhibited values and standards that weren't in line with mine, Yeah. So I went and found someone that had a little bit stronger standards. Funnily enough, he was a ex-commando, so he did have, high standards for himself in other areas as well. So, that was good. I did the same with the business. As soon as I signed the lease of my first property, I was in, this is crazy. This is actually a really big deal. If this fails, I'm in really big trouble. Like, I've got enough money to pay rent, but I can't just pay rent and live off $300 a week for too much longer. So I paid for a business coach on credit cards, for about 6 months.
It's that old cliche, invest in yourself. That's something I still speak to a lot of people. Like, well, I've got a chick that works beneath me. She's pretty much our general manager, and we're having conversations at the moment. She's become part of the furniture within our business. She's incredible. Like, we've just managed to lock her in onto a pretty good contract. She's only 23 or 24. We put her on some really good money based off of value and what she brings to the company. But I think she stays around not only for the business, but she sees the value in the mentorship. So she's pretty much come to us and said, look, I love the fact that I'm part of the business, but I don't want to just be part of the business. Like, I want to latch on and be able to be taught. And I want you guys to be able to teach me essentially what we're talking about now. Like, you give me the insights as to what you're feeling. And she's really well taught. She's one of those people, although she's very clever and she's got majors. I think she majored in graphic design. She's very clever. She's got no sort of concept around what it is we've done. And, a person that asks questions is easily taught. I always got told when I was a kid, no question's a dumb question. And although sometimes I feel like that's overused, that conversation, we even discuss with her now, like, she'll come to us and say, hey, Dan, look, like as simple as a money matter that's got nothing to do with business. She'll say, hey, look, what do you think is the best way for us to run this? And 50% of everything that I do, I feel like keep the mentorship of like, we've got 50 staff beneath us. And I'm probably younger than, 30 or 31. I think it's 31. The girls were telling me yesterday are older than me. But to be able to provide knowledge based off of something that, you've physically worked on, and that knowledge didn't come for free for me. Like, I did the same. I went and did mentorship classes, and I went and seen seminars, and I did all this shit that wasn't cool to do. When I was younger, that was like, from where I grew up, I grew up in Blacktown, out of the West. I was in a pretty rough crowd, and like for you to do that, you're a bit of an odd, like it was an oddball thing to do. Once I started understanding, every time I went, even if the person who I went with, the mentor, what didn't really resonate with me, I still learned. I learned, like, I learned that wasn't the mentor I wanted to be with, but something I was learning progressively. And then Ryan and I talk today, like, him and I have very different perspectives on certain things. We butt heads quite a bit on like, we're both very opinionated. But one thing we do progressively as mates is learn. And I think if you haven't got someone around you, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. I strongly believe that. Like, I've always sort of believed that. And if you can get around people that want you to do better, man, it's cliche as fuck, but it's the only way to progress.
Well, and unfortunately, the tough part is sometimes to have those people around you, like, there's a cost.
Oh, of course,
You know,
yeah, of course.
Unfortunately, sometimes the people around you are drilling holes in your boat subconsciously, and it's not because they mean to either. It's just that, you know, like they're like, oh, you know, like they want you to do well, but they don't want you to do too well. They don't want you to profit, you know, and they don't understand the costs of things that might pop up, you know, like for instance, like with COVID and whatnot, we've just bought this building, but now we have to work real hard to save at least 3-6 months worth of everyone's wages in the bank for the next lockdown, because there's no safety net for those people wages. And if I fire everyone the next lockdown, they might not be there on the way back. So there's all these costs, and the only people that want to see you prepare for those costs are sometimes the guy that you pay $1,000 a month to, you know. And most people running a small business look at that $1,000 a month and would look at it and go, wow, man, no way you pay that much. That's a ripoff. And it's like, well, in my experience, I'm pretty good at pulling the trigger on action. That $1,000 a month has often increased my revenue by 2-3 times that amount, you know. So
yeah,
it's
couldn't agree more, man. I couldn't agree more. I think sometimes you have to be proactive in pulling the trigger and rely on the fact that you're not a professional at everything. As good as you are at most things, there's always someone that's going to be able to benefit you on the other way. And I think the people that try and do it all themselves, they dig themselves a hole. Don't get me wrong. I got, you know, mates around me, entrepreneur mates that go really well without any mentorship and without any financial advice and without an accountant. They go.
That's not me.
Well, you know, I've got them, but they can go as well as they want. I still could guarantee that person they'd be doing twice as good if they went and got it. That's the opinion of me. Like, you can be going great and that's all you ever want, and that's cool. If that's what you want to do, that's cool. But if you're focused on a progression of success and coin and for that business to grow, guaranteed if you outsource those professional items to these types of people, you're going to double your I think you could nearly double your net.
Even if you didn't double your money, if you weren't working a 70-hour week and you were working, say, a 20-hour week,
well, you've still essentially doubled your money per hour, right? Like, you might not have doubled you might not have doubled your net, but you've doubled your money per hour by a mile.
Yeah, I want to have control over my time, so I can do a podcast when I want to. I can pick up the kids and drop them off when I want to. I can go for a swim. I can take the day off and go
for a swim. Listen to him.
Go for a swim in the creek if I'm getting mad.
It's a fucking ice bath down here at the moment, bro. There's no such thing as swimming down here. I'm sitting in 26 degrees of ducted air conditioning, and I can feel the draft coming in my window.
All right, I'm sitting in the sun. It's probably about 24 degrees. It's
Ryan and I went to the gym this morning. It was 2 degrees when I got in my car.
North Queensland winners. This is where you need to holiday. You need to jump into
Ian, one of our lifestyle goals, because my wife's family's all in Townsville, and I want to build my business up there as well, so that 3 to 6 months a year we can live up there, and ideally in the winter.
Yeah, in the winter. Yeah,
100%. All right. So just changing up a little bit so that the video looks a bit different when I cut it up. Just quickly, tell us 3 things about you that people would be surprised to know.
3 things that people would be surprised to know. I didn't do martial arts as a kid. I played hockey, football, basketball, soccer, AFL, rugby union. I played everything but martial arts.
I'm actually surprised. I thought I knew you didn't fight until later on, but I thought you would have been training your whole life.
No, I fought a lot at school as a kid. I was picked on. My parents were pacifists, and that meant I would never go back to like 14 to 24, learning to deal with bullies and people because you look different and speak different. It's not a fun time.
One question: when you were out on the town at Tuaria, were you and Kevy Lomax heading out together?
Me and Kevy, big Kevy. No, we never used to hang out too much. But big Kevy, we might have did our sub 2 together, where he had a interesting trip in a rover. He is a mythical legend.
Who fed him rum?
Who fed him rum? Yeah, you shouldn't feed gingers rum for sure.
Well, I remember my last fight night in Tuaria. He was a sergeant and he was on his last warning, and they were being very. And then someone convinced him to scull a rum. 5 minutes later, he attacked the entire support company bench for their flag. Him and Huggo going at it. It was the best. Hilarious. Great times,
Mate. I've never done anything bad like that. You blokes are menaces.
Yeah, I also used to smoke cigarettes.
Oh wow!
So when I was in the army, I probably started maybe when I was a kid, and again it was something that I periodically had like breaks from when I was fitness training, but I probably smoked cigarettes for about 10 years. So I haven't touched one. Oh man, it'd be over 15, 16 years, maybe longer. Maybe
so
2000
did you ever go back to the bush darts when you're out bush?
2000. I gave up in 2005, 2006, I think. No, well, I probably smoked for the majority of my military career. I gave up when I decided I wanted to get out. When I decided I wanted to get out, I was like, I want to give up all the bad things about my life right now. And that was A, the military and its leadership, and B, smoking, and which turned into, oh, hey, you can't have a beer without smoking. So I gave up drinking, and I didn't drink for about 18 months.
Yeah, really? I'm 4 months in at the moment. I haven't had a drink for 117 days at the moment, so I'm still counting.
If there's someone that's out there that's struggling to change their life, give up drinking for 12 months and then take a journal at the beginning and the end, and you'll just see the amount of cool stuff that you can do and the energy you have for other things when you're not getting on it once or twice a week, you know.
Yeah, I gave up for 6 months and then like gave up all party, everything, and then I thought, oh, I'll have a beer again, and I went for about 4 weeks where I'd had like 3 beers over the weekend, and I haven't really touched a beer since because we're at 9 month mark now, because I was like, you know, when people say, and they say, you know, I give up social media, I give up alcohol, it's the best thing I ever did, but then they're back on it, and then you're back to square one. I did it, and then I felt, well, what's the point? Like, I didn't really. I'm not saying I'll never have another drink, because there'll be occasions where I do enjoy it, but that weekly beer and stuff, like I just feel better without it.
Yeah. If you can save it for special occasions, it's definitely, you know, I don't think I'll ever not drink ever again, but I just think people need to understand that if you want to really like supercharge change and get healthy and do all those other things, it's probably one of the number one things that holds people back, especially in Australia. So, you know,
I think I'm just petrified of ever having a hangover again. I don't want one ever again.
Yeah. I think the trick is to go to bed before midnight.
Yeah, that's 100%. Start drinking at 9 in the morning and be in bed by 11 p.m. and you're right by midday. The next day you're good.
Midday drinking rugby at sleep by 3 p.m.
You start Friday,
I'd
be right by midday.
All right, so jumping into the hindsight into foresight part. So we got three. So we've created this wealth triangle, Ian. So essentially, we don't want to talk about rich. We don't want to talk about. We talk about wealth, being wealthy, which is really being happy and being fulfilled, right? And the three areas that we've sort of nutted out in this triangle is a real key 3 areas that you got to balance throughout your life to be wealthy or happy is money, health, and lifestyle. Right, those 3 things are like the corners, and everything sort of falls under them. If you can balance those 3, because we know money shouldn't be the priority, but we do need money to survive and achieve our goals. You need to be healthy, otherwise no point on anything. You can't enjoy stuff if you're not healthy, and then ultimately lifestyle, living your best life is what it's all about. So in relation to the first one, we'll start with money. What are some, looking back at your life, some mistakes or things you did well? What's something that you passed on either back to yourself or the younger generation to say, this is a good lesson that I had that you'd like to pass on to people in relation to that?
It's been the money part, and the money and the numbers has been like probably a fairly slow process for me. like generally now when I think of money, you know, like if I'm spending it, it's like, is this thing something I need? Is it helping me? You know, otherwise, why the hell am I spending money on it? Like, do I really need a new car? Like, you know, I think we have 3 cars in this house, but the last 2 cars I bought, I haven't even sold. You know, like I've got one's 5 years old, one's 15 years old, and the other one I bought my wife a new van. So when we went on trips for tournaments and whatnot, we had a comfortable car to drive in with a couple of spare seats if we wanted to give lifts to the team. So I'm really utilitarian with my money, and I try not to. I don't look at it too much. I just sit it there so it's waiting. I think definitely for business owners, they should be looking at profit first. If you're having money arguments with your wife, you need to either read the Barefoot Investor or Journey to Wealth, and you need to agree on a system so you can get mad at not following the system, not each other, and attract that process to your money.
That's the fucking best thing anyone has said in regards to money, because generally the arguments are not about the money, they're about the situation around how you're dealing with the money. I think that's probably the best one yet in regards to coin, because I know for a fact that when we're arguing, like it happened the other day, I said to my missus, hey, we've got this budget set out, fucking I'm adhering to it, you're not, which means I'm going under my budget. What's going on? But the fact of the matter was we'd set this budget up and then not implemented. So it was my fault as much as it was hers. And the system itself was the flaw, not us. So I think that's exactly right. I think that's the fucking best way to put it.
Yeah, and often when that thing's happened, they're like, "Oh, we didn't account for this," and you can attack the system and the process instead of the person. It's really important. I wish myself and my wife had done it a lot earlier. And to be honest, we've revisited it a bunch of times, and you know, like, and we've gone back and like increased budget. You know, it's like, hey, we're doing all right now. You know what? It's okay for us both to, if we want a coffee every morning and whatnot, you can do it. If you're trying to drag yourself out of a hole too, you know, like a money hole, people got to understand, like, even when I set up the business, I didn't take my kids to the movies for 12 months. I didn't buy a coffee for 12 months. We had zero paid entertainment for like 12 months. You know, I paid myself $300 a week as my addition to the groceries. All my wife's money was gone, tied into the house and everything else, you know, and we did that for 12 months. I was paying my casual staff probably more than me before I upped my own wage.
Yeah,
I think the funny point there is the just being conscious, you know what I mean? Because the end of the day is you were conscious in the fact that this is what you needed to do to attain your goal. And I think so many people can go, oh, look, like I see the Gary Vee stuff where he says, you know, don't buy that $10 coffee or whatever. And I'm a stickler for spending money. I'm the worst. Like, I'm way worse than my missus. I'll spend whatever I've got if I have it until there's a process in play. Once the process is there and I've got a goal, I can then follow it. And I think Ryan always talks about, like, homes. When people buy homes, they're a sense of forced savings. So people go, I can pay the mortgage off, but I can't save for the mortgage or for the deposit. And when he said that, I was like, that was back in the day. That was me. I would never default on a bill that I had to pay, but if that bill wasn't there, I couldn't save that money. And until I learned the way around it and put a system in place, that was always going to be me. And I still fuck up from time to time now, but I know where I fuck up now, whereas previously it was just like, it is what it is, and sort of.
It'd be cool if we could teach our kids that. Like, I wish my parents said, okay, Ian, first job, first paycheck, let's set you up 2 bank accounts. One's your spending money, one's your car money, and then, you know, like, maybe taught me with my car first how to save money, and then for your next full-time job, they should have gone, all right, Ian, now you need three accounts. This is your living money, and this is your bills money to pay rego for your car. And this third account, this is the account where your money goes in for your house. You know, if my parents
that's a good idea.
If my parents had maybe done that for me, they wouldn't have had to lend me a little bit of money to get my first house. Thanks,
Bullshit.
Mom and Dad.
I call bullshit. I call bullshit because I do that for my sisters and they don't listen at all. I do that for years, bro.
Well, maybe I wouldn't have listened. Maybe I wouldn't have
That's
listened.
the problem,
You're
right?
100% right. I might not have.
That's what, you know, when people always say we should have been taught that in school. And I believe that the education system needs a bit of a reform, don't get me wrong. But my problem is that's a lot of the time that's us justifying why we fucked up instead of saying it was me. Because, bro, I tell you what, how many classes did I take in school? I don't remember jack shit. I didn't listen to barely any of them. You reckon if somebody was talking about superannuation and a budget, I was going to pay attention? Not a chance.
I
can't get adults to listen about superannuation.
I lost my brain somewhere at 14 years old and didn't get it back to about 24, 25, I reckon.
100%.
Yeah, you and the rest of Townsville.
But what I say to my clients, and one of the most empowering things about the education system that we do with our clients, or any good financial advisor that works with their clients, is people think, oh, you're just teaching me about my money. Well, no, we're instilling values in you, then you can pass on, you know, and that's so powerful. If you get good with your money, you're automatically going to pass on these systems to your kids as being just second nature, and that's where they're going to get their lessons from, you know. And I think that's really powerful that people need to think beyond themselves with stuff like that as well.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, next one. So more your avenue. So the next one's health, right? Now, both physical and mental health. What's a big sort of lesson that you go back and pass on about physical and mental health in your time?
Oh, man, there's too many. I suppose your emotions are a flag that you need to change something. Like, you need to change something. You need to do it. You're not broken. Even if you are mentally ill, you're not broken. But your emotions are a flag that you need to fucking change some shit. Because getting diagnosed with something and getting help is fine, but don't become that thing. Oh, I'm bipolar. Oh, I've got PTSD. Oh, I've got anxiety. People are getting diagnosed now and becoming that thing. Don't become that thing.
Yeah.
You're not that thing. And it's okay when you go to the doctor. It's okay then to go to the doctor and be told that you've got depression. Hey, if you need these pills to get you through the dark thing, but don't go home and do the same shit that got you there. You know?
Yeah.
You know, because
fucking oath.
Don't do the
nail
same
on the
shit.
head.
You made yourself sick. You got to take some responsibility for it. You know,
and that's really good because that's like saying, like, let's say bipolar, which is obviously a diagnosed condition, and with bipolar is a part of you. You aren't bipolar. You aren't just bipolar, right? Like, it's a small part of what you are. You know, deal with it in that way. That's really good, man. That's something I haven't heard anyone put it that way before.
I'd actually take that and use that in my own life, man, because I find. I said to Ryan on Monday, I put this vision in my head. He said to me, oh, I've got to train at 5 a.m. Monday. And I was like, fuck, man, that's going to wreck my day because I'll train and then I'll be wrecked. And I fucking went and trained and I come home and in my mind, instead of just staying awake and getting through the day and working, like I just moped, I just got in this mood where I was like, oh, fuck this. It's my day's wrecked because I had to get up at 4 a.m. And it was really funny because the following day it nearly happened again just because I was coming off the back of it. I was like, get the fuck up, cunt, get over to the park. And I went over to the park with the kids, trained, got outside the house and just tried to do something else because I didn't want to feel that way again. And I feel like that I couldn't have done that 12 months ago. And I feel like that is the main part about this mindset. Even the podcast is where a lot of people are saying, you've got to actively take change and you have to physically go out on your own and change. Take accountability for the fact that, agreed, the depression is real. We're not saying it's not real. It's 100% real. But the fact of the matter is you have every opportunity to try and change your physical habits to attain to that. And a lot of people just go, give us the medication and go sit back in the black room. You know what I mean? And I understand like there's anxiety and it's hard to leave. And I fully get that because I've been around people with it. But at the same time, pushing through that barrier to be able to change something, like unless you want to continue to be the way you are, you've got to change something. I fully agree with
that. Yeah. It's definitely, it's a hard thing. People need to talk about it lots, but we all got to take responsibility, you know?
Yeah, that's good, man. I like that. All right. Last one. What about lifestyle? So, I like where your head's at. I want to make sure we sort of encompass that because every time we talk about lifestyle, people think it's just buying flashy shit, right? And that's not it. Like, you're a great example that lifestyle can be what you do every day, right? And that kind of stuff. And I think if to take people from where your sort of mindset might have been to where it is now, what's the one thing that you would sort of, or not one thing, but what's the lessons that you'd go back and say, you know, that you wish you taught yourself earlier about living your best life, about lifestyle?
You really go after those things that you feel like that you want to do in your heart, and like you got to be willing to change as well. Like you're going to do stepping stones, and you're going to end up in a spot eventually where you want to be, but you can't skip steps. You can't go, man, that's a sick life. I want to be a gym owner, and skip the steps of being a trainer, helping somebody else set up their gym, working part-time, maybe working another job like in the security industry or the prison to make sure that like you have money and can support people, or selling supplements, whatever it is. You can't skip the steps and go from where you are now in this hole to go, you know what? I'm going to be a personal trainer with heaps of clients and work 20-hour weeks and whatnot. You know, like first of all, you got to do your Cert 3, Cert 4 and get a job that allows you to study well. Then you got to hang around other personal trainers that know how to make money. You're going to have to learn things that you didn't know were part of the business, like selling memberships, digital marketing, and copywriting, and all these other things. Like it's a long process. And there's going to be a whole heap of stepping stones to get there, but you have to listen to your head. If you're in a job that you fucking hate every day, take a pay cut, go work part-time somewhere else, and start studying and moving towards the thing that you want to do, because the time is now to do it, not later. Yeah. You know, otherwise you'll end up stuck and you're like, oh, I've done 20 years in the military and I hate people, and you know, like, you know, whatever it is, you know, like it could have been easy. You know, I think I probably wanted to leave the military maybe 3-4 years in, but I kept waiting for that trip to see what it was like, waiting for that extra deployment, you know, like, and after I'd done 3 peacekeeping operations, I was kind of done, you know, like, and I'm like, okay, this is a job. I don't mind the job when we're doing the job, but there's so much I don't like about it, you know, like, and I didn't like it was making me mad. I didn't like it was making me frustrated, and I didn't want to take that home to my family, you know. So I think that was a pretty good catalyst, me just understanding that like this thing that's burning away at me holding on to it, trying to make it work is silly, yeah. You know.
That's really good. That's, mate, so many military people get caught up in that bubble. I almost did. I was a lifer. So you know my uncle Kingy, he was a PDI tour, right? So Damien King.
Yes.
So that's my uncle, right? So that's why I went to Tour. And when we were at Kapuka and Singo, they were like, anyone wants a deployment, go to 1 and 2 area. I was like, yeah, man. I got there as 2 area deployed to Afghan, and I missed out on that trip. But I was going to be a lifer. That was me. I was in. I thought it was going to be great. I got injured at 5 years, got out to try something else. If I was still there today, I still wouldn't have had a trip, and that's 11 years on, right? And same as you, I would have been sitting there going, I'll just wait for that trip, you know, like, but that injury and getting out and trying, and I was only out temporarily, going to try other stuff, you know, put me on a path that I really realized, holy shit, I really didn't enjoy my day-to-day life in the military, and I'm actually enjoying something where I'm getting, at the time I was getting paid more, but it wasn't about the money. I was more so going, I actually really enjoy what I'm doing with my time and my freedom, and set me on this path to where I am now, you know. So I think that's a really good thing to put up. Yeah,
it's important. If you don't like something, change. And the things, like things that stop people change. Oh, but I get good money. Oh, you know, like, and it's like, well, you know, I suppose that the pain has to be hard enough for you to really want to take a hit somewhere else in your life, which is probably another good reason not to overextend on house purchases or car purchases, the things that you don't really need, you know. Like, I mean, our house is still a modest one, you know, 3-bedroom, 1 bathroom, 1 toilet house, you know. I drive a Triton, you know.
Whatever makes you happy, eh? I really like that, man. That's probably the biggest lesson from today, which I'll get you to summarize it up. So the last thing we'll get you to do is, if you could wrap it all up and sort of say you could go back to your younger self and say sort of a quote or a 1-sentence paragraph thing to yourself to try and help you get ahead quicker and learn some lessons, what would you say?
Man, that's a real tough one because if I could swing back in time, I probably would have slapped myself hard a good few times.
That's all you got to say. That's it.
You know, I definitely think just being able to listen a little bit better, but not only that, but you can't let people tell you to what you can and can't do as well, because at every turn, you know, like people didn't really want me to join. Oh, why you join the military? You're smarter than that, you know, like, and then, you know, I got to the military and I was like, oh, you know, in 12 months I want to try out for special forces and this, and then people talked me out of it, you know, because they were like, oh, you got to be a senior soldier or whatnot. By the time I'd done 3-4 years, I was a bit disenchanted with the whole the whole military and process. Like, it was, you know, I was like, oh man, I'm not even sure I want to be here at this point in time. So, and I didn't, you know, and then it took me another 3 to 5 years to actually leave.
Yeah.
You know, so I lost all drive to go and want to be something or do something or want more or goal set for a really large period of time. So I think having a direction and believing in yourself as a young person is important, but thinking it out too. Like, why do you want to be a marine biologist? How are you going to make money as a marine biologist? What type of lifestyle is being a marine biologist going to give you? Do you want a house? Do you want these things? Do you want to travel the world? How much does that cost? Is being a marine biologist what you want, or do you want to actually just be a recreational diver because you love scuba diving in the ocean? You want to make money somewhere else? There's so many deeper conversations.
Did you go to SeaWorld as a kid and think that's what you got to do? That's what I did.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's just tough, and like I didn't want to take a dig at marine biology or the marine biologist students, but I actually have a good friend that he did do his PhD in marine biology, and he now runs expeditions for National Geographic and has been chasing tigers in Sumatra, and he's been a polar bear guard in the North Pole. But none of it, like a lot of it, didn't have to do with his marine biology degree. He became a really good problem solver for people. I can organize this. I can be an asset to people around me and whatnot. And all these skills he almost didn't even learn at university. There were things that he taught himself and realized, hey man, I got to be able to drive a boat. I got to be able to like look after people. I need to be good at this, X, Y, and Z. You know, and he became an asset. So young people, you know, like, make yourself an asset. Have a really good think about the lifestyle and life you want to live. I wanted to be a professional athlete, and I gave that up, but maybe because like I just, you know, I wasn't making the rep teams, but I could have at that point in time. If people were like, Ian, if you want to be a professional athlete, you could be a physio to professional athletes. You could do coaching courses. You know, like, people could have steered me in the right direction at that point in time. But, you know, life is one of these things that you have to live and be part of and chase after these things. So you just don't know. So I'm not sure if going back and slapping myself or giving myself all this advice would help. But if you've got kids, teach them to be happy, resourceful, assets, well-mannered, you know, all those things, hard workers, because if you do that for them, hopefully they'll be welcomed anywhere and they'll find their way eventually.
And if you don't know where to start, just send them to a good martial arts school.
Yeah.
That's where they'll start learning all that stuff.
Yeah, if you could, you know, sports parents.
Send them there and drop them there. Don't fucking sit on the side of the mat.
No, send sports
parents. That's good advice. I'm going to take my kids and I'm going to drop him there. Because my son wants to do it.
Don't even watch them play every game. You're stifling them. Don't watch every game. Watch every couple of games. Pick them up and go, how'd you go, son? Tell me about it. And buy them an ice cream, win or lose, you know?
That's so against society's norm.
Against the grain. I don't mind it. I really do think that's good, because I see that. I see the kids on the side of the field and running to their mum and crying and fucking being enabled and being validated by doing those types of things. And if my kid turned into that, I'd fucking hate myself. I'd slap him.
Or like me, I have to stop myself from overcoaching my kids. I'm overbearing, and it could stop them from enjoying it. Like I'm like, you actually didn't try hard enough. I know you didn't. And that's not for me to say all the time. That's maybe for like other coaches or for them to realize themselves. Like you don't need to be that person. You need to let somebody else be that person and be that hard coach. Some of the questions I ask my kids when they're crying on the side of the mat after a jiu-jitsu match, I'm like, look, mate, what are you crying for? Because sometimes it's because they're hurt. Sometimes it's because they're lost. Sometimes it's because it's an elimination tournament. I'm not going to get to roll again, coach. Sometimes it's what you don't think it is, and it's like the one question I like to ask them is, do you feel like you did your best, honestly? And if they say no, and I will try harder next time, and if they did do their best, well, that's all you can do, mate. Don't worry about it. Do it again next time. But don't use those. I always tell my kids, don't use those tears for nothing, crying about losing. You go back to the club next week and you be a better student. You listen harder to the techniques and all those things and use that emotion to get better so you can change the results next time. And, you don't need to be saying that as a parent all the time. Yeah. Someone else can.
It's a hard thing to do as well. Yeah. It's a hard thing to do. Like, I'm always been real competitive, like us, Ryan. Like we spar on a Saturday and we're competitive. Like we spar on a 50%. Where I'm like, fuck, God, you hit me hard, then I've got to hit you harder now. Like it's one of those things. Like it's embedded in you. I always played competitive sport growing up, and now I see my kids and I want them to enjoy it and be competitive. But sometimes you can overbear them and really force them the other way. Like that's the last thing I'd ever want. But just quickly, is that mural behind you?
Yeah. So when last COVID happened, I'll turn it around.
It's the Tong Po version.
Yeah. So when the last COVID happened, I had a friend who owns a what does he own? He owns a tattoo studio, but he wasn't allowed to tattoo anyone. So I paid him to do a Coach Bone logo of me killing the monkey. So get the monkey off your back, kill the monkey, kind of something that I talk about a little bit every now and then. So yeah, that one is. But like you said, I mean, my business, Courage Training Center, we have a bunch of great coaches there, and I regularly take time off. They take a bunch of classes, and I really feel like that team learning environment. Like I want lots of coaches for my students to learn from, because me traveling the country, I enjoy having lots of coaches, and it stops me from falling into like dogma holes as well. So I'll never run a Coach Bone martial arts, but I did put this one at home for podcasts and lives for a bit of a interesting backdrop.
Yeah, that's mad. I like it.
Perfect. Mate, thanks heaps for coming on. You've gone through everything we need, so I'm going to get you to give yourself a bit of a plug now. We'll pop up all the tags and screenshots on the final edited video for you. So tell us what's going on now. Give yourself a little plug. Who do you want to connect with that you can help or that can help you, and what's next for Ian and Courage?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I'm doing pretty good. Instead of giving myself a plug, I'm going to give martial arts a plug. Please, parents, get your kids into martial arts. Find a good school. Make it boxing, Thai boxing, jiu-jitsu, judo, one of those real sport arts that people can compete in and do all those things. I love those things. There's a lot of spirituality involved in them, but without the realness of competitiveness, I feel like it just gets a wank real quick. All these people that are into combative martial arts and all that type of stuff, I'm going to give a plug to all the people. It's like all those things, whether it be Krav Maga or anything else, was all designed by people with combat sport background. So why not do that? They got their whole lives to do it. Get into it. It's super fun. I think it's good for our DNA, and it's good for our community to have more people walking around out there that are more in touch of able to control their emotions and their body as well. So get out there, get into martial arts. A plug for everyone to give it a try, young, old. I really think it's a good thing, and it could move our community forwards. And unfortunately, the Australian psyche, I feel, or our government at least, thinks that it's for thugs, but it's for making sure that we don't have too many thugs.
Yeah, that's a great plug. We like, I sponsor Arlene, I sponsor Charles and Janae, And the number, we've had quite a few, professional MMA fighters and combat athletes on the podcast. And the number one thing is they're all great human beings. They're so respectful, so humble, and just really well in touch with themselves. And that's the message that I think martial arts needs to get out there, and people need to start reading and watching about is those people.
Yeah.
It's just a scrap,
Yeah, I do love watching those girls get out there and get after it. It's good for girls to see that it's okay to rock up and train with the boys and get amongst it.
From what I see, your daughter won't be far behind them, man.
Man, I'm not sure. Look, I mean, they know it's a superpower for them now, especially Lily. She's 15 now, and she's competing with adults, so she knows it's a superpower for her. But she's had a few Thai boxing and boxing, but she's not that into the running and conditioning that her crazy dad makes her do. So she wins because I'm scared about her getting hurt. So we'll see, man. But I'm glad of what it's done for her so far. She doesn't fear anyone on the playground. She's been bullied by a few girls, and she's been able to stand her ground, and she's actually walked away from all those things. Luckily enough for all those other girls, but
there's a few snapped arms ready to be had.
But she is legitimately quite a skilled martial artist and a really responsible young lady. So it's allowed me to spend more time with her every afternoon.
Has she tapped you out yet, Dad?
Yeah, I do joke about that all the time. Yeah, she can get me every now and then.
I'm not putting my daughter into martial arts, man. Fuck that. She already wants to hurt me now, let alone if she starts learning how to armbar.
It'll get you extra cuddles, I promise.
All right, bro. Thanks so much for coming on. That was a really good episode. I really appreciate your time, and hopefully we can link up on other stuff in the future.
Pleasure, gentlemen. I look forward to it. I love Three Kings. Keep going.
Thanks, brother.